Hi, everyone. This is Tammy with VA to VA, and we're real excited today. We have a guest with us. But I am Tammy with Tammy's Office Solutions. We'll all introduce ourselves first. We're so excited to have you all with us today, and we're looking forward. We have a great program for you. So I will hand it over to one of my other members here, Nanette, Office Solutions.
Hi, I'm Nanette Telemack. I'm with, in essence, the virtual assistants in New Hampshire, and I provide generalized service of sales, marketing, and administrative help to small businesses. And I'd like to welcome our guest, Gretchen, and I'm name right. So,
Breuner.
Thank you. And so we have Gretchen here, and she just a little bit background about her. When she first started Ohio.
I'm excited to have you all with us
We're very excited to have you here.
For you. So I will hand it over to one of my other.
I'm getting feedback, and it's just a little distracting. I don't know why, but if you could mute while I talk, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that's happening.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. But when Gretchen Breuner first started as a speaker, it took an enormous amount of time and effort to learn how to get speaking opportunities, but it paid off for her. Not only did she keynote nationally and internationally, but Gretchen also appeared on San Diego's Today Show, other TV programs, and on international television. She was featured on the front page of the travel section of America's 7th largest newspaper, as well as in Parents Magazine, and and on KPBS radio and TV. So you're pretty much out there. These successes were the direct result of her taking consistent, actionable steps and following through for best results. So today, I want Gretchen to speak to us about how valuable it is to grow one's business, both as an owner and as a VA. And she's figured out how to create success for both founders. So having you here to discuss this with you.
Nanette, I don't know if anybody else is having an issue, but I couldn't hear any of that. It just was talking over itself.
And is everybody muted?
Yeah, everybody was muted just to try and help.
Oh, that's very strange because I only have one up. It's not like I have another one up.
Now is everybody else fine? Can you hear okay? Now we lost Gretchen though.
Oh no.
So maybe she popped out thinking it was hers. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and
hear anything.
It was just talk. All I heard was a lot of noise because it was talking over itself.
Okay.
So why don't we go ahead?
Start again.
Lisa, yes. Lisa, go ahead and introduce yourself because I think it didn't start till after you started talking about Gretchen and introducing her.
Okay.
Oh, I'm Lisa Gold with Augusta Virtual Assistants. Welcome, and we're so glad to have y'all today. My company is based in Augusta, Georgia, and we help realtors, attorneys, and other types of business owners with their back-end time-intensive tasks. So we will go from here and wait on our guest speaker, Gretchen.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, everybody. If you're just joining us, this is VA to VA. We're very excited to have you today. We did have a guest speaker who we've seemed to have lost for a moment, but I think she's coming back in, I'm sure. But she's going to talk to us today. We're going to talk about how VAs and multi-VAs and even just business owners can grow their business through speaking and speaking engagements. And I can understand why that could happen very easily because when you're out talking about whatever subject, people are going to want to know about your company and your business. And so that does make a lot of sense. Now, some of us have that fear of speaking, and I know she's going to talk to us a little bit about that as well. So, but yeah, we're really excited to have her because she's been doing this for some time. And I know it's something that I'm going to have to be doing soon myself. And
really?
And all of us are going to be doing that soon, even on a conference. We're all involved in a conference soon, so we're very excited about it. Now, I'm going to hand it back to Nanette and let you introduce her again, since we couldn't hear. And then we'll let Gretchen answer some questions for us.
I'm so sorry. Now I can hear you all. I don't know what happened, but there are like multiple recordings. So I apologize. If you want to start 5 seconds back, I'm now caught up to speed.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just we're going to introduce you again because of the sound effects that were happening, and I'll just do verbatim from your short bio because it's so well done. But actually, but from what you said, you have started as a speaker. It took an enormous amount of time and effort to learn how to get speaking opportunities, but it paid off for you. Not only did she keynote nationally and internationally, but Gretchen also appeared on San Diego's Today Show, other local TV programs, and on international television. She was featured on the front page of the travel section of America's 7th largest, as in Parents magazine, and on KPBS radio and TV. These successes were the direct result of her taking consistent, actionable steps and following through for best results. Here today, we welcome Gretchen, who will share why speaking is so valuable in growing one's business, both as an owner and as a VA. She figured out how to create success for both the talent and the team, all through speaking, and it's a pleasure having you here today.
Thank you. It's nice to be here, and I can see you all and I can hear you all.
We apologize for that. I don't know what happened.
Was it happening to all of you too?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
It just sounded like everybody was talking.
Yeah, okay. All right. Phew, I thought it was just...
No, I know it was very odd, but
Technology.
Yes. So Gretchen, we want to go ahead and jump right in, if you don't mind, and just start with where you just want to know how on earth it is that you knew about the speaking industry and to get involved in that.
So it starts with this road trip that I took with my kids in 2008. It was an extraordinary trip that led into a book, and for many business owners, authors, experts, what I call the talent, a book can often lead to speaking. So I had every fiber in my body saying, don't be a speaker. It's, you know, you really would rather face the den of lions. So I actually did all the training to combat that fear. And when I was, quote, ready to speak, I then looked for, okay, now how do you actually get bookings? How do you get on stage? And at that point, there wasn't anything out there that I really found useful to help me. So that was my journey of my 10,000 hours of finding and understanding how to do the quality research, how to find the stages, how to get booked, and then actually get on stage. Before I realized it, I had friends and colleagues and clients coming to me saying, you've really gained a lot of momentum because of these, you know, speaking internationally and domestically and TV and radio. So my business pivoted kind of right before my very eyes, and I went from being in front of the curtain to behind the curtain and training the talent on how to get speaking gigs, because my business grew so fast with the demand that actually my health gave out and I had to let my private clients go. But what was great about that is understanding that still people come to me asking, can you help me find speaking gigs? Weekly still. This was a couple years ago that I pivoted in my business. That's when I realized I can train the talent, but more importantly, more effectively is training the team. And that's how I came into the whole VA world, the assistant world, because I realized there's this gap between the talent's desire to speak and the team already perhaps in place, but maybe not understanding how to best support the talent. So that led me to this perfect market of matching these two people, you know, the admin, the VA, to the talent, and how to make them both happy.
Well, that's interesting. So do you also train VAs to train speakers? You know what I mean? With you saying that you're training, is that something?
I train the VAs on how to support their speaker as to support their talent as a speaker.
Understood.
So the VA understands, okay, this is what you got to do. The talent should know. It's not that they shouldn't know, but for sustainability and long term, they're not going to be able to do this work.
Right. Great.
So my question is, why is speaking so important for a person's business? If you can expound on that, what can it do for them and for a VA?
Yeah, speaking, you know, in the most simplest of terms, you are selling not one-to-one anymore. You're now selling one-to-many. You're connecting one-to-many. So the reason that it can exponentially grow your business is for that fact. It's just a ratio. The nice thing about speaking is I think we've all been in an audience where we look up on stage, we see that person, and instantly they have the credibility. So it really just gives a business owner that impact, that influence. And as a VA, the demand for this kind of work is so high, and I speak from personal experience. So not only can speaking grow the talents business, but it really gives a VA or an assistant a way to feel that they are contributing, that they are confident, that they are empowered in helping this person get on the stage. And even as a VA, you're out there speaking. You know, I like to think of every time you leave your house, every time you pick up on the phone, you're speaking. And so I believe speaking exponentially can grow anyone's business, but it really gives you that impact and that influence.
I have a question for you, Gretchen. What are your 3 best tips for finding and booking speaking gigs?
So if I were a VA and I was looking to get gigs for my client, the 3 best areas to start would be, 1, my client's warm leads. Especially if they are new into the speaking world, your warm leads want to see you succeed. That also ties into a referral. So even if they've done a little bit of speaking, go back to those earlier speaking opportunities, ask about like, what's your upcoming event now? Could my client come back? So the combination of warm leads and referrals are the 2 first places. There's actually 4 that I think of. The third one, outside of doing an enormously deep dive into the Google search areas, which I train on how to research for that, go to your LinkedIn. LinkedIn is just a treasure trove of leads, in part because if you go and you use the search field and you put in speaker, or you go into the group field and put in speaker, as a VA, that will identify people that identify themselves as speakers. Then you go to that profiles and you see their website. On that website, if they're really a prolific speaker, they will list where they have spoken in the past, and they will give you where I'm speaking in the future. There is a list of gigs that you can now look for as a VA for your client. And then the last area I turn to is really the complementary markets of your client's message. So for example, if you have a client that's in leadership, under the umbrella of leadership, I think a complementary market to that is actually health and wellness. Health and wellness and leadership are 2 of the biggest markets out there for speaking. But if you are a leader, you're going to need to be in good health to be formidable, long-lasting, strong. So you want to put your health people with your leadership people, because that helps them lead better. And in the health world, you want to be a leader in that field. So now your leadership skills come in. So finding gigs in the complementary markets help you stand apart, which is why, again, if you're in leadership and you only pitch to leadership events, you tend to blend in. So if you're always pitching in the same market as your message, it's harder to be found and it's harder to get a gig. So
that's really interesting because, yeah, I bet a lot of people wouldn't even think about that, or that, crossing over into certain areas, because they really do complement one another.
Right.
It makes sense. Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. It's very interesting. And I love your tip on LinkedIn as well. I think that's great, just actually going in and seeing what people are.
It really just gives you a trail of breadcrumbs of gigs.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yeah.
And especially if they're in a similar industry, or like you said, one of the other complementary markets, it just makes perfect sense. Now, how does somebody then get paid to speak? Like, what's a good starting fee when you're just starting out? Or I even think of, because we talk to multi-VA companies, this is what we do. And as we are growing and stuff, sometimes we're asked to speak, or, as the owners of these companies. So where is a good starting fee, or how do you know how to charge for that?
Yeah. So great question. And I like it because it speaks to the talent and to the team. And I think that they need to both know this. So if you're just starting out as a speaker, there's a ton of opportunities, at a service club, whether that's, Kiwanis or Rotary or Lions Club, they often pay $500. So the speaking paid sort of ladder, if you will, starts at about 500, quickly moves to 1,000 to 1,500 to 2,500 to 5,000, 10,000 and up. So if you're just starting out and many people speak for free, which is absolutely worth it, and we can talk about that later. So to make this jump from free to paid, you ask, what is your budget? And then they'll say, we pay $1,000. Now you are a paid speaker and you charge $1,000. So the idea of also having a VA do this work for the talent is nice, because many people, I put myself in that category, it's hard to negotiate on your behalf. Some people kind of start to shrink a little bit and like, it's hard to ask for that big, $5,000. But if a VA just says, look, my client speaks for $5,000, that does not include travel and accommodations, and go from there, they can really speak from a position of power rather than kind of not a weak position, but some of us get a little bit nervous when that part of the conversation comes up. So that ties into what do they get paid and why it's also nice to have somebody else doing this work for you.
Absolutely. That makes perfect sense. Annette, I think you had a question.
Yeah, I was just wondering, how does one make that jump from free to paid gigs?
Yeah, and it's not as hard as people think. It's really finding out. So when you do the research, and I spend a lot of time training on research, because you want to qualify a gig in a number of different ways. One of them is the gig paying their speakers? So you can divide your research up into understanding what are the free gigs and what are the paid gigs. So when you're going to that gig that is paying, that has a budget for speakers, that's when you say, what is your budget? What are you paying your speakers? And once you start to get paid gigs under your belt, then you can also negotiate from, well, now my starting fee is $2,500. But when you're just sort of making that transition, most of us will say, okay, I'll take $1,000, or before I wasn't taking any. So now you've made that jump from free to paid, and then you start building up on the ladder from there. So I'm going to dive right into a little bit on this free versus paid thing, because it's so important, and I want your audience to hear this. If a client is saying, I don't want to focus on free gigs, it's really helpful for the VA to say, and these are marketing points you guys can write down. I will tell you, a free gig, you can often make more money speaking at than a paid gig. Because if your speaker fee, even if your speaker fee is $7,500, which is a good chunk of change, you could get on stage in front of a free audience, sell 10 of your coaching packages at $1,000, you've already made more money. So for a VA that is talking with the client, and the client's going, I only want, paid gigs. That I understand that, but to open their mind and to educate them on the value of being in front of the right audience, even if free, is totally worth it.
Absolutely. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Well, Gretchen, if someone hasn't done much speaking before, what's the best way to really get started?
So again, if I'm a VA and I've approached a client that's looking to get speaking gigs, what I would work with them on is understand that they need to have their talking points. They need to have, maybe you and I, we're familiar with the hook. So what is their talk title? They should have a one sheet. They should have some kind of a speaking reel. These marketing pieces will help them convey what they talk about and have an event host analyze or consider, okay, are you right for my audience? However, I don't want these pieces to be a hurdle for new clients or new speakers to get over, because as the speaker evolves, so does their marketing. Their one sheet will change. Their speaking reel will change. So while they're important to have, they are not the end all be all. So certainly your talking points, your one sheet, hone your message, make sure that you are able to connect to an audience. And the best way to start doing that is just to get out there and speak. And that's why in the beginning, it's helpful to take these free gigs, at a book club or an association or a chambers meeting or a service club, because you will be able to get feedback from the audience to find out, am I really connecting? Because of course, if you're not connecting, then, it's a loss for this talent, it's a loss for the VA, it's a loss for the audience, a loss for the host.
Yes. Now, you kept referring to a one sheet and a speaking wheel. Tell us, for those who aren't familiar with the speaking industry.
Yes, great. I'm glad you're circling back on that. So a one sheet is basically just industry jargon for a marketing piece. And on the one sheet, it typically is just a one sheet. As a speaker gets more prolific, sometimes they go front and back, so it's a two sheet, but it's still called a one sheet. So you have your talking points, your bio, a headshot, your talk title. I've seen a number of one sheets where it says, who should hear you speak? Who should hear me speak? So it helps the event host or the potential audience quickly decide, oh, are you right for my message? Are we congruent with one another? The nice thing about a one sheet is I have actually spent time with a designer. So in my training, there's a template. So it makes a one sheet really easy to do, because you can spend $500 on a one sheet with a designer. And I say that because a lot of speakers, as they're beginning, they kind of try to put something together on their own, and it's maybe not as professional as it should be. But same with the reel. You can always start at the ground level. You know, hang a black sheet up in your office and start videotaping, getting you speaking, getting some people in a room and filming from behind. There's ways to build upon these things if you're just starting out, so that as you grow in your speaking, you'll get real footage from event hosts, things like that.
So the one sheet, is that similar to a press kit? If people are familiar with that?
Yes and no.
Okay.
It is a speaker's version of a press kit.
Okay.
A press kit to me is more cumbersome. There's, typical more questions. A one sheet will basically have your headshot, maybe a picture of you speaking. It says, these are my talking points. Here's a short bio. You can even have a testimonial if somebody's heard you speak, so you can have that on it. And again, I think the best kind of one sheet is it says your talk title at the top and then your names. A lot of speakers will put their name like up in lights, but they won't really advertise what they're talking about. So the event host goes, well, great, this is Gretchen, but what does she talk about? So when you really want to convey your message, I think that's the most important thing to get out. In addition to always having your contact information. I can't tell you how many one sheets I see with there's no way to contact you because they forgot.
Oh, wow. Yeah, a VA would certainly, I think, find that.
Exactly.
And then the speaking wheel is just basically telling where you've spoken before. It's just
yes. So typically they're just like little clips from where you've presented. There's ways to sort of put it together that makes it more of a story of, okay, so there's B-roll, which is maybe it just has the video playing of you up on stage, but the voiceover of you saying, this is what I'm talking about, this is why it's so important. You want to have sort of a personal element, a story arc to it of kind of your journey, why of you're doing this and why it's important. And then you match that over with actual footage of you speaking so that the event host knows, okay, this person has been on stage. Again, if a speaker is just starting out and a VA can tell them this, there's way to have a speaking reel built, even if you're brand new. I mean, I know people that stood in front of a room and pretended to answer Q&A questions and just spoke like this, and they were able to convey, like, I can speak. There's nobody in my room right now, but it gives them an idea of what you're talking about.
Understood. Okay, that makes sense. And you would, and it almost makes sense to even have somebody put that together for you rather than the speaker trying to do that themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because it should be very professional.
Can really overwhelm a speaker. And so if the VA has even the minimal talent in iMovie, you know, you start there. It doesn't need to be spend thousands of dollars on this because it, like I said, it will evolve. But again, that's a great task for a VA to help a speaker with.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so moving on just for a minute, but what would you say the top 3 mistakes that a speaker makes are?
That the speaker makes, and I think what I made as a speaker support person, which is to the VA position. I think the #1 mistake a speaker makes is trying to do this all themselves for the long run. I started out doing my pitching myself. Many people do that. I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just not sustainable. Plus, you look less professional. You look less, you know, big without that representation. So my thing was, Gretchen's really great. She's a great speaker. You should hire Gretchen. Contact Gretchen for information. So clearly, you know, that's a rookie move. So for the speaker to maintain the effort that it takes, and it's an ongoing and consistent effort to find and book gigs, that's the #1 mistake I think that they make in this kind of world. As a VA, the #1 mistake I made as a speaker support person was making this really results-based versus effort-based. And I learned the hard way. I mean, that's literally when my health gave out, because I thought I could control the whole world and say, yes, I can get you X number of gigs. And of course, that's not true. It's so much of that is out of the VA's or the support person's control. So The biggest part I talk about in the protection of a VA, and I give them a sample proposal, you know, when I train with them for this reason, which is to say, I am an effort-based, you know, deliverable for you. I will research 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week. I will find you 100 quality gigs. Those are deliverables that are within their control and within their efforts. You do not say, I will find you X number of gigs in this market on this date and, you know, pull a rabbit out of a hat on top of that. So that's where I feel like those are the biggest mistakes for both the speaker and the VA. Then the one that sort of brings them both together is the management of expectations. I think there are so many speakers out there, especially if they're new, if they're a business owner and they think, I want to speak, I'm really excited to speak. And they don't realize that it can take 3, 6, 9, 12 months depending on the calendar of certain events to actually get on stage. So as a VA, I train them to understand that this part of the business is accounting to help manage the expectations of the speaker so that both parties are set up for success.
I think that's huge for every VA, for no matter the industry, because I can't even tell you how many client calls I get that's one of the big questions. What can you do for me? Or how do you do, you know, and all of that. And especially like social media and stuff, I tell them, look, unless you have a huge following already, it could take 6 to 18 months. It just depends, you know, before you're seeing results. And so I think a lot of people don't realize that, though, that you need to manage that expectation as a VA.
And a lot of speakers don't realize, especially again, if they're newer, that an event comes up and there's a deadline for a submission. If you miss that deadline, it's another year to submit. So that's another reason, like for a VA to be so successful, that is to have an organizing tool to be on top of the follow-up. That's the other mistake the speakers make, is they don't have good follow-up or follow-through because they're overwhelmed. They're already, you know, busy on their business. That is where the VA literally can come in and save the day. I feel like they get a cape and they're flying because they're a superhero, because they're able to have that ongoing and consistent effort, the follow through that is so important, and understanding this calendar of events and when to pitch, how far in advance to pitch.
I want to make
it's funny. Yeah, go ahead, Lisa.
Point as well, that if you are results driven, like you mentioned, Gretchen, the VA can set herself up for breach of contract. If she sets a contract that
you say that, and my stomach dropped out, because it's exactly right. Yeah, it's a bad place to go.
Absolutely.
Well, you can't ever make guarantees like that. I mean, in anything, even in sales. I many times I'm asked to do sales, and people say, you know, where are they? They expect that you pick up the phone and people say, yeah, okay.
Right, and it comes from a place of true good intention. I mean, I came from a place of, I'm going to work my butt off. I believe in you. I believe in your message. I can make this happen. So that's the trick, because you really believe it in your heart. So that, you know, it's all with the right mindset. It's just, you got to be careful of that phrasing of, I will do X hours, X research, but not X gigs.
Yes. And, you know, one thing I just want to point out to anybody watching is something that you said that I think is huge. I used to do lead generation. That's how I started. And one of the biggest things about sales or anything else, like Nanette's saying, is you have to do follow-up. So many people will do that first talking or that second meeting, but then they just let it go. And they could have had that sale maybe on the third. You know, they say it takes 7 touch points, but I'm just saying, if you just follow up, it's huge.
It's true. And follow up. I was just talking to a VA this week, and she was talking about that seems to be her struggle, was the follow up. But what I told her is that is part of this business. It is the follow up. And again, that's where you can, you know, in how you organize your business, really help a speaker stay on top of that. And you're right, it is just picking up the phone, sending that email, having another touch point.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so to get started, what's the best way to set yourself up for success as a VA speaker support person?
Well, because I've come from this place of being in demand myself, because of the work that I'm doing, I think for a VA to start marketing themselves as a speaker support person. There's different phrasing you can use to advertise, as it were, this kind of work, whether it's a speaker manager, speaker producer, speaker support person. A lot of that can be done on LinkedIn. I think it's really important to set yourself up for success, like as I talked about, to have a proposal in place that explains what are the deliverables, what are you going to do, when are you going to do it, a timeline, things like that. If you can offer your clients the same protection as a proposal will offer for the VA, and that is a speaker contract or speaker agreement. And again, I'm not an attorney. I've met with an attorney, so I have that in place, because when a VA can go to a client and say, I have this for you, it's such a sense of relief. I have seen so many speakers get burned by not having a contract or an agreement in place. A personal friend of mine said yes to a keynote. The event host said, you know, checks in the mail for his keynote speaking fee. He went out and spent $1,500 on marketing swag for that event, and then kept saying, where's my check? Where's my check? 3 days before he was supposed to speak, the event was canceled. So he was out his keynote fee. He was out the $1,500 he spent on the marketing money, the marketing things. And then he was also out on travel and accommodations. So that's why if a VA can have that for their client, I think it sets their client up for success. It sets the VA up for success. And then the last thing I would do to be successful is start with the end in mind. Have the conversation with your client. Really understand what is their goal for speaking. Where have they spoken before? What are they doing now to currently get gigs? And then work backwards. So that makes this breadcrumb of, okay, what is the VA doing for the talent? Very clear. And that helps the VA and the talent, the team and the talent, stay on the same page. So those are my ways to set up for success from not having done that when I was starting.
I had my next question, Gretchen, but I think you've already answered it, but I'm going to let you clarify whether you have or not. And that is, what's needed to get more gigs for clients?
So if those are marketing pieces, it's, it's a one sheet or a speaking reel, your talking points in your bio. Most important to get more gigs is having relationships with event hosts, picking up the phone, hanging out with them online and offline. It's really developing those relationships, both through the client, because they're going to have a great network, but also as a VA and how they're tied into it. And then beyond that, and we don't have time today, but that's where you can really dive into research using the technique that I figured out on Google for the best results of finding gigs that are right for your client's message. With LinkedIn, even on Facebook. Facebook has the very same, similar feature of a search field and groups and, how people identify themselves with. A VA, as long as they're clear on their client's message, then they know where to go find those gigs online or on the phone with relationships, because they understand how to connect the audience with their client's message for the most success for everybody.
I have a question for you in regard to also talking about VAs, let's say, not being the support person, but actually speaking. So like, yes, as a business owner, yes, we get opportunities and things like that. And I know that's something I'm coming into as well. And I've known this for a while, but years ago, I would do anything to not have to get up in front of a group. I've become more comfortable, but it's still, is a little scary.
You're here to that.
So a twofold question. What is your best technique that you would tell somebody to overcome that fear? And then secondly, what kind of opportunities would, say, a multi-VA owner have? Like, what kind of opportunities should they look for so that they can go out and speak?
Great questions. Okay, so for the first one, there are a number of different techniques that I've learned and now practice when I'm speaking to help combat stage fright. First of all is to get grounded and present before you go on stage. So whether that's, sitting and doing deep breathing. I do a cupping exercise where, I think everybody's familiar, you kind of just cup your body all over. That helps the anxiety, the nervous energy sort of come out, and it kind of fills you up. But you do that combined with breathing too, okay? The other thing to do, I'm going to stand up. So when you practice, before you go on stage, I won't stand all the way up. You really want to have your feet balanced, the weight balanced on both feet. Don't do this. Don't do this. Start from here, shoulders back, really breathe in, close your eyes and visualize yourself already out on stage. Then when you walk out on stage, I think one of the best tricks, and women aren't very good at this, I'll tell you, they get up on stage and they kind of back away like this. So you want to go up and face the freaking lions. You just stand right there, and then when you look out on your audience, divide your audience into 4 quadrants. This, it gives me goosebumps. Each quadrant kind of has its own energy. They've tested this. So then you kind of speak to one quadrant at a time, because the people there will feel like you are connecting right to them. So then you just move around the room to each quadrant. You will feel the different energy. So if one quadrant is giving you bad juju, address them, but don't get in your head about, oh my God, somebody over there is not happy with me. Move on and get to the energy with the other quadrants. And here's the other thing. I am an extraordinary audience member because I always feel compassion for the person on stage. You will be able to pick out people like me in the audience. So then when you look at them, you can pull from their warmth, their love, because they want you to succeed. And the last bit on that is, I tend to talk really fast and I get really excited, and you have to know you have time. You may have noticed I've been drinking water the whole time. You can do that on stage. The audience will feel if you are rushing, they're going to kind of like, So the more relaxed you can be, the more relaxed they're going to be.
Absolutely.
That is very, very helpful, because I've had to stand up and speak in business networking international meetings. That's what built my confidence, and you can feel the energy of the audience, right. And it is intimidating at times that people are whispering or maybe texting.
See the bad audience members.
Exactly. So that can be intimidating, and I know it takes practice. It really does take practice.
Yeah.
But those are very, very helpful.
I know, those are great tips.
The rehearsal.
I heard. Yeah, go ahead. I heard that doing a power stand for a couple of minutes is helpful too. Yeah.
I have gone into the bathroom and done this, and when I first started on TV, the book that I wrote revolved around a trip that I took my kids on in an RV, right? So I thought my natural audience would be the RV market for my message. So when I began speaking, I was at an RV show, and there was you speak like 5 times a day. So one that was combating serious stage fright. But after I finished my 4th talk, I burst into tears from anxiety, from nerves, from everything. My 5th presentation was coming up. One man walked into the room. I talked him out of staying and said, you know what? I think you want to be at the Tanks and Tires workshop. He left, and I ran out the back door. So I'm like, I'm out. I can't do this anymore. So yeah, it does take practice. It takes rehearsal. Very, very important. The second question that you asked about was how a VA can speak or where to speak. Is that correct? So in developing this side of my business, I have been overwhelmingly excited with the amount of opportunities in the VA world. Between understanding there's, the networking groups, the workshops, live events, I have done more speaking in my business in the last 6 months than I have done since I started in 2010, in part because of 2 things. One, realizing where my message can fit. So again, when VAs are working with a client, stand out, be different. I figured this out with this message. Now people are coming to me asking me to speak. The VA market, market niche has so many opportunities for VAs to speak and to contribute. And the point about that I love, because it uses literally the word in their title is virtual. Right now we have about a 25% global connectivity. In 2 or 3 years, it's gonna change, and we were gonna have 75% global connectivity. So the opportunity for a VA to speak globally, of course, will be exponentially bigger. So not just being on these live stages, which are great, I'm not poo-pooing them, but in addition to that, you will have so many other ways to get your message out there, to grow your business, to connect, to reach clients.
Yeah, even just doing these types of things that we're doing now, you know, it reaches
Right.
a whole different audience, you know, so it is great. You're absolutely right. And I have been amazed just since 2017, the opportunities. I mean, I'm getting emails, calls, I mean, all the time for work, and
All the
it's
time.
just been
Right.
incredible.
Well, when you have a podcast, you have a teleseminar, you have a conference call, you have a
Yeah.
blog as a stage. I mean,
Mhm.
there's all kinds of ways for a VA to be speaking, for anybody to be speaking.
Yes, absolutely. The other thing, before we moved on, if you don't mind, I had one other twofold question, basically. So when a speaker, and this goes to the support person, or if we're speaking ourselves, though, what kind of software and presentations do you recommend?
So, okay. First of all, I recommend that a speaker get to the point where they can speak extemporaneously. Of course, having slides is useful for a lot of reasons. How you design your slides is very, very important. We've all been there where there's a data dump on the slide, you yawn and go, I don't even care what they're talking about. So I use Keynote. That's because I'm conversant in that. Some people are stronger on PowerPoint, and I'm really careful about the number of slides I have and what's on my slides. Most often, if I can be in a position where I have rehearsed enough and speak extemporaneously, I do that. If you're using slides literally just as maybe an outline, like, okay, don't forget to talk about this point, totally fine. If you can put a nice visual on it that reminds you of what you're talking about, even better. So a VA, and I did this for clients myself, you're able to put their slides together. It's always nice to have a second set of eyes. So when the talent says, these are my talking points, and they've put 25 points on a slide, the VA can go, wrong, not doing that. So, you know, to what's the word I'm looking for? When you clump things together.
Condense
Yeah.
or, yeah.
So you chunk it, that's what it is. You chunk it down in a way that you can remember, and then rehearse, rehearse, rehearse.
Mm. Great points. Great points. So you answered all of the other
It
things
does make me
that I
think
was
about one more
thinking
thing about your earlier question about the stage fright. I'm sorry to circle back on that.
No, that's fine.
If you can get to the room early and stand on the stage before the event actually starts, always recommended. Walk the room, like put your hands on the wall. It's sort of like a dog peeing on a tree to mark your territory. You know, stand on the stage and throw your voice so that you know that you can reach that back corner, and then pee on all the chairs. So you've marked your territory.
That's one way to put it.
Yeah.
Disclaimer, she doesn't literally mean that.
No. I just put my hands on the wall and I stand on the stage.
That's awesome. I love that. I love
Not
that.
very ladylike, but you know.
Whatever works, but making your mark, getting comfortable with the surroundings, making your mark. That's basically what you're trying to say. And then when you stand up there, you don't feel like, you know, you've never been in there before and you don't know which way to look.
Right. And here's the other reason that a VA is so critically important to the success of a speaker. Imagine the speaker shows up at the event, and now their head is, you know, spinning around, trying to go, okay, I have to talk about my message, and I've got to try to sell my books, and I have to get to the back of the room, I have to pass out the order forms, I have to collect the check, I need to get the water, I have to spit out my gum, I can't smoke my cigarette or have coffee, right? If a VA is there, they say, I got this.
Mm-hmm.
You show up and speak. I got all of this. Immediately, imagine the relief that the client feels, like, oh, thank God, I don't have to think about all of that stuff.
Exactly.
So having a VA there to handle the back of the room, talk, you know, find out if there's additional staff that's able to support the speaker. How is the room set up? Is it going to be theater style, classroom style, rounds? Are they, big tip, if there's drinking in the room, a speaker should not be speaking unless they are entertainment. It is just a bad idea. I've seen too many speakers bomb, and not the fault of their own, but just by speaking to a group where alcohol is being served. And, you know, I love having a beer, but if you're speaking, that's not the audience for you. So just a note, and the VA can can seek those things out, can ask those questions for the event host, like, tell me how the room is set up. Is lunch being served, for example? So is the speaker going to be on stage and now they're hearing, you know, utensils and plates clanging, so they can be prepared. Those are all such valuable things that the VA can do for the talent.
Exactly. Very good points.
Oh, I love it.
I have one more question. Do you have any tips on how to negotiate a deal for a speaker?
Yes. So the nice thing about this business is that there's so many different ways to go about it on the negotiation side. So if I'm a VA and I'm approaching an event host on behalf of my client and I'm negotiating from there, first of all, you know, you ask them what their budget is. If they say, we don't have a budget, but we do have an expense line for travel and accommodations. Okay, what does that look like? If it is a paid gig, I always operate from the place of travel and accommodation is paid for and work backwards. If they say, here's an expense budget, here's $1,000, do with it whatever you would like as far as how you're going to get there, or, you know, are you going to have food? I often negotiate from a place of 50% paid up front, and then 50%, you know, due the week before, or however what's comfortable for the speaker. I don't like to have the last payment due at the time of the event because it's challenging to chase down the event host to get the check. You kind of just want to have everything smooth. You can negotiate on expenses. Again, like, okay, I'll pay for my breakfast, but our lunch and dinner included. What for your client, oh my gosh, ask this for your client. What is the deal breaking point for the client regarding negotiation, regarding the bottom line? If a client says, look, it is a deal breaker that I have to fly overseas and they're not paying my airfare. Now the VA knows, okay, how to negotiate that. And then, you know, again, is just understanding what is the outcome for the speaker. What are their goals? What are their deal breaking? Ask about expenses, travel, food, speaking fee, marketing. All those things are negotiable. I hope that helped.
No, that's great. But I was going to say, you know, I never thought of, I guess, Gretchen, that the VAs were necessarily doing the negotiating. You know, I always think of speakers, and I know just starting out, because I'm starting to work with speakers and stuff myself, but, you know, often they don't have managers and, you know, all these other people. So it's great to know these tips for our VAs.
Well, and here's the kind of middle ground on this. So the VA can get the conversation started. When it transitions to, okay, let's talk money, the VA can have those preliminary conversations. It is very natural, common, encouraged to have the talent come into this conversation at one point. Because obviously the event host is going to want to know, okay, let's talk the talk here. But it's nice to have the preliminary conversation done. For example, a colleague of mine called me up last month and said, Gretchen, she's a $15,000 keynote speaker. I don't want to negotiate this. Can you handle it for me? So I got on the phone. You know, I ended up negotiating $2,500 more than what my friend was going to get. But then the talent can come in and close the deal, as it were. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. That's great. Nanette, I think you had one more question before we wind things down here.
Yeah. Let's see. I would, well, as we wind down, leaving today, what would be the one thing you'd tell our audience to do in order to get started? You know, get started with speaking gigs for their clients. So, what would be that one thing?
It would be to sit down with your client, have that heart-to-heart conversation, find out what is their goal in speaking. Some clients, I think, want to see themselves as, I am a speaker and that's all they do. But to me, speaking is more of your marketing plan. So if a VA can sit down and say, look, I understand that this is a revenue stream for you. It's an additional revenue stream, but I want to know your goals and what does your picture speaking look like? Because if they say, I want to be a $25,000 keynote speaker and that's all I want to do, the VA really needs to understand that, because I'm telling you, If they're a brand new speaker, they're not going to go out and make $25,000 unless they're an Olympic athlete, a celebrity, you know, whatever. So understanding their goals and how speaking fits in their business would be the first thing I would start with when I'm talking to a client.
And then set the expectation.
Oh yeah, good point.
If it's like a pie in the sky, like
yes, yeah, and I talk to VAs how to basically qualify a client. I mean, I go through that with them because those preliminary first conversations are so important for setting the talent and the team up for success.
What would you recommend then, Gretchen, for VAs? How would they attract speakers? Like, I know you mentioned a few little things they can put in their bios and stuff like that, but what is, like, you know, the best way to attract speakers if you want to work solely with speakers?
First of all, I would have on my LinkedIn profile, I offer speaker support. If you're just starting out in this, I would definitely just start reaching out to speakers. And the reason I say that is because there's a lot of business owners that think of them as speakers that aren't really speaking because they don't really know how to do it, or they're overwhelmed, or they don't have time. So if a VA can identify themselves as a speaker support person and then just start reaching out and saying, I offer the service, if you'd like to have an exploratory conversation, how my services might benefit you and support you in your goals of speaking. I get requests all the time. In fact, I get requests all the time that I'm now matching speakers up with VAs that are trained in my speaker training because the demand is so high. So I'm now a funnel for this kind of thing because I know the demand is out there.
So it's not just people who do speaking for as their business, but sometimes it's people who are business owners who that's their way of marketing their business.
Yes, exactly. So again, they don't have to be this big keynote speaker, and I say keynote with the $25,000 price tag. They can be speaking at a variety of networking groups, a variety of these smaller stages that have great opportunity and potential for anybody who wants to grow their business. There is the speaker, the author, or the coach that says, speaking is my primary source of income, you know, but to me, most often, it's an additional revenue income. It's part of their marketing plan.
So this is like doing conferences and things. I'm sorry, Nanette.
No, go ahead.
So just like, you know, doing conferences and things, you know, for instance, VA to VA is getting a great opportunity to be a part of an upcoming conference online, and we're excited about that. But that isn't our end game. That is, we're there to talk about multi-VA companies. So I understand. Yeah, that's a great point, Gretchen. Thank you.
Yeah.
And also it gives you, that's just another avenue for a VA to look for opportunities.
The networking and just the relationship, every conference I go to, both as an attendee or as a speaker, it just is a chance to meet people and build that rapport and grow your business by relationships too.
So this is great. And if someone's excited, a VA is excited, wants to go down this road, I know you offer some training, and so let's talk about that. I'm sure our audience loves that.
Yeah, to me, this is the most exciting part because I feel like I'm saving lives, and I mean that because I saw what happened to me not knowing how to do this work. So I thank God my health did sort of go along the side because it allowed me to figure out how to put this online, how to train other people to do this effectively. So the program it's called the Speaker Training System, and it's 5 online modules. The first 2 modules are on research, and I spend a good chunk of time on this because I think it's critical to the success of being on stage is understanding how to qualify an event, how to find the events for your client. Because if you get your client in front of the wrong audience, like I said earlier, the host is mad, the talent is mad, you look bad. So the first 2 modules are on research. Then we move into pitching and how to do that effectively. You get sample pitches, you get ideas of how to have the open conversations, the mistakes to avoid that I did in my pitching. So that's module 3. Module 4 is speaker marketing. So that means how you get the one sheet, how you get a reel, you get the sample template, the one that you can send off to Fiverr and say, drag and drop these and these here, and boom, you have a professional one sheet. I talk about how to have the reel, what's needed in the marketing pieces, and how to use them effectively. And then the last module is sort of the mistakes to avoid from stage, It's how to set your client up for success and thereby setting you up for success. These pieces that you get as additional to the online training is a lead tracker. So it's a spreadsheet that I've created. Some VAs already have like a CRM, which is fine, that'll do it, but it helps you track all of the research because the research can get rather daunting. I kind of geek out on the research because to me that's the most exciting part. But you need to stay on top of it, and you need to have a way to, okay, I got to follow up with this person, I got to follow up. So you get a lead tracker to help with that. You also get the VA proposal. So exciting because it protects the VA. It says, this is a sample proposal, modify as needed. This is what you give your client so you manage their expectations. You can educate them on the process. You also get this contract that goes to the client. Again, I met with the attorney, they're $500 an hour. I think I met with her for an hour and a half. I'm not one, but now we have that in place. We talk about why it's so important and what to have it, and then the VA can actually say, I have that for you, client X. So all of that is included. They also get a speaker workbook that has a list of places that are looking for speakers so they can feel like they've got someplace to start right away. And then with each module, you get a training guide so that the VA knows exactly what to do and when to do it. All of that is $497 for the VA. It's on my website for $997, but I'm always honoring where the VA is in their business, and I so strongly believe in they are the muscle behind the talent. They are the ones that are allowing these people to go out to share their message, and I want to reward them. It literally gives me goosebumps thinking about the value and the importance of what the support person brings, because I'm telling you, without that support, the talent isn't going to be able to deliver long term. So I'm so excited about it because I've had the feedback that, Gretchen, this is changing my life because it's changing my business. It's making me more marketable. It's making me stand apart from my competition. The VAs have so many valuable skills, but this little gap of matching the talent with the team, this is proving to people there's a way to make money, not only by getting more clients, but now you're negotiating. I'll have a percentage of your speaking fee. I'll have a percentage of your sale, if they're up there selling a high price program. So that's why I get so excited about this.
So you even
That's
recommend—
great. Now give us your website.
Sorry?
Give us your
okay.
website.
So my website is GretchenBreuner.com, but I have a unique link for your group, and I'm not sure where it is. So I can find that and put it in the chat box, or will you guys email that out? There's more information on my website, but you're not going to get that discounted price there.
No, we'll put that up on our website, and yeah.
Okay.
And I'll post it on our Google Plus page for our viewers to see.
And Facebook.
And Facebook, right? Yeah, absolutely. So
Okay.
you even recommend that that VAs eventually negotiate fees based on the speaker fees and everything that you're getting.
I'm so glad we can talk about this real quickly. So one of the questions that a talent will have is how do I work with a VA? So obviously there's many ways to structure a business. You guys know that better than anybody. Hourly, retainer. I have seen some of this hybrid where the VA is on a retainer for a couple of months. Getting the rocket off the ground for speaking is the hardest part. That's where you do the research. That's where you're trying to pitch. So the first 3 months, I recommend that a VA is on a retainer. Once you start to get those gigs coming in, and either it's a paid gig or they're making money from speaking it free, you can help the speaker by transitioning to, okay, now I'm commission only. Personally, I am so cognizant of protecting my VA speaker support people. Do not work on commission out of the gate. You will lose your shorts because of the time. So I really recommend you negotiate whether that's hourly or on a 5 month or 5 hour retainer, whatever that is, but provide that financial protection for the VA until your client is actually speaking and generating income.
Right.
This has all been just great information, Gretchen. We'll make sure that everybody gets the link. We'll put it on the YouTube. We'll put it on, all of our avenues, G+, Facebook, and on our site. I'm so excited that you joined us today because I think it's an opportunity that a lot of people don't think about in the VA world. And
they don't, because they don't see it as a real income generating opportunity for them and their business.
Absolutely. And thank you for giving us, our audience, the special as well. So we
Sure,
really
happy to.
appreciate that, because we have a lot of new multi-VA companies. And when you make that transition, you're kind of in that place where you lose a little first and then gain. So that's a great
Well,
opportunity.
and it's a 30-day money-back guarantee. I want to make sure everybody knows that too. So, you know,
Oh, wow.
I really stand behind it. I'm here for questions all the time. I am your team.
That's awesome. Well, we really appreciate it, Gretchen, and we really appreciate everybody that joined us today. And we are VA to VA. You can catch us online at www.va2, it's TOVA. I know a lot of people are unsure about that. So
Yeah.
VATOVA.com. And of course on Facebook and Google Plus and here. So thank you so much.
Ladies. It was a pleasure to be here with you.
Well, thank
you
you.
for coming.
We truly enjoyed it. So, and Annette, I'll leave it up to you to take us offline.
Oh, sure. Well, you know, to me, this is a great opportunity for our audience, because I hear all the time, you know what to do, how to branch out, how to grow. This is one avenue. And I love the fact that you get into such a comprehensive program, training program. So I think this is really exciting.
I want them to feel like they've got the business in a box, so that's turnkey. Yeah. They can just start with it. So
right, and that's helpful. We're all looking for ways of branching out. So. A book though, didn't you?
Yeah.
And do you link to that?
The book, it's called The Road Scholars, with a Z, and it's based on, I pulled my 3 kids out of elementary school at the time. They were 5th grade, 4th grade, and kindergarten, put them in the RV, and so it's called The Road Scholars. It's actually, I think it's linked to GretchenBreuner.com, but it's also theroadscholars.com. It talks about the trip.
Oh, great.
It's on Amazon.
So that's another thing.
Well,
so I wanted to just thank you for coming on and just opening our eyes in this avenue. It's exciting, and I think it's exciting because it does bring in all these skill sets that all of us have that we can utilize as well as make money doing it. So yes. I think that's really great. And thank you so much for coming, and for our audience for watching.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so again, everyone take care. Have any last minute or one last word? Tammy or Lisa?
We'll see you next month. We look forward to seeing you next month.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Thank you for watching.